Good evening. For the City Record, I am Rachel Hanson, City Attorney for Saletta, Texas, here today at the Council's request to talk about local concerns regarding local hydraulic fracturing, commonly known as fracking, explain the situation in its legal context, and recommend possible actions for the Council. Although fracking has been happening for 60 years, environmental and health concerns are being brought to light as operations come closer to homes. In Numbers 35, verses 33 through 34, we are directed by the Lord who says, "You shall not pollute the land in which you live. You shall not defile the land in which you live, in the midst of which I dwell, for I, the Lord, dwell in the midst of the people." Here in Saletta, our awareness and concern is now growing as the new fracking technologies enable operations to extract resources from our own backyard, just beyond our city limits. We are not alone in this struggle between our local concerns and the state's authority. We are used to our functions as a home rule city. However, it is important to remember that we have limitations. Here are some key points I highlighted about this issue. We can enact laws on statewide or general matters, unless specifically forbidden by a state law. And our authority ends when there is a conflict. If the matter is a statewide concern, the state will prevail. Also, when it is an issue of power of eminent domain, it is important to note that this is especially true when it is property outside the city limits, with which we are concerned today. Finally, no matter what the issue is, the state can always preempt the field of activity or regulation, which they have done on this issue. Earlier I mentioned that in a conflict, if the matter is determined to be of state concern, as fracking is, the state will prevail. Conflict exists if a local ordinance prohibits an act that the state permits. Two important historical decisions that court used to settle issues of state and local conflict are Dillon's Rule and the Cooley Doctrine. Courts have been following Dillon's Rule since 1868 to determine local or state authority. If an issue is determined to be solely of local concern, then courts rule in favor of the municipality. On the other hand, if it is not contained to local matters or the state has not given express or specific permission, then state's authority will be held. Furthermore, a state has the right to abridge and control the powers of the city, taking us back to the possibility of preemption. The Cooley Doctrine, going back to 1852, is also relevant to our situation as it pertains to commerce. We are dealing with a matter of commerce. Therefore, our power is controlled by the federal government and the state of Texas. The City Council brought this situation to my attention as an environmental concern, with the potential of equipment and chemicals literally next door to some residents. We have seen that Texas has authority over Saletta on this matter, but where does the federal government fit in? Because this is an environmental concern, the EPA has been involved. The EPA has the power of the Safe Water Drinking Act behind it, with the exemption of fracking processes. However, Section 1431 of the Act gives the EPA the power to issue emergency orders if a contaminant in an underground source of drinking water may present an imminent and substantial endangerment to public health. What does this mean in practice? Unfortunately, some would say not much. At the end of 2010, the EPA issued an emergency order against a fracking company, but the company fought back. In the end, the EPA dropped the enforcement order. An environmentalist stated that the EPA's withdrawal in this case is an abject failure of its mission to protect Americans' health and environment. A Denton, Texas resident said that by the time the EPA is willing to get involved, it's too late to help control the environmental issues. In the previous slide, I quoted a resident of Denton. Looking at Denton is important because their experience teaches us what will happen in a city-state conflict over fracking. This image showing Denton's location gives context to the story. It is located directly above Dallas-Fort Worth, not in open land where people usually, or used to, envision fracking activity. Denton initially operated within the framework of local government's authority over surface issues, enacting protections such as setbacks, which worked until the situation worsened, and setbacks failed to protect Denton from the effects of fracking. Additionally, Friedman and Price note, the city became divided more sharply between pro- and anti-drilling factions, a consideration we need to keep in mind as we move forward. In November 2014, after citizens campaigned, a measure passed making Denton the first Texas city to explicitly ban fracking. However, the next day, Denton was sued by 2 fracking companies who stated that the ordinance was preempted by state law. 5 months later, before Denton had its chance in court, House Bill 40 passed, invalidating the Denton fracking ban specifically, and also making clear to other state municipalities that similar attempts would be preempted by state law. Here is a closer look at House Bill 40. With its opening lines, House Bill 40 makes it clear that the state has authority over this issue, stating that it is an act relating to the express preemption of regulation of oil and gas operations with the exclusive jurisdiction of those operations by the state. Furthermore, Friedman and Price explain that the state tends to favor the industry, which will guide its determination of local ordinances that are considered to affect business operations and commercial activity. In a conference presentation, Philip Jordan and Paul Yale explained tort law, which gives context to the Parr case. They explain that these allegations do not concern the fracking process, but other aspects of oil and gas operations, including water contamination and noise, light, traffic, and other disturbances. Claims usually include nuisance, negligence, and trespass. The Parr family, making a nuisance case against fracking companies, won a rare victory. In an interview, Wiseman, a professor of environmental and energy law, expressed doubt that the Parr's case would hold if the fracking company, Aruba, appealed, as they were expected to do. Wiseman was right. Regarding Aruba's appeal, the court ruled in its favor. The Parr's initial win was unusual. Furthermore, as Jordan and Yale explained regarding tort law in general, and argued by Blackman, specifically regarding the Parr family case, the nuisance argument is not truly a fracking case. Therefore, even if the Parr family had won Aruba's appeal, it likely would not have given weight to the fight against fracking. As representatives of the city of Saletta, we have been examining fracking in Texas in light of our municipal viewpoint and the concerns of our citizens. As it is clear, this issue is under the authority of Texas. Therefore, we must also take into consideration the state's perspective if we want to make positive changes. The Texas Railroad Commission explains that House Bill 40 is needed to ensure uniform regulations, and it balances issues of developing natural resources, environmental concerns, and the economy and jobs. Jordan and Yale inform us that Texas is concerned about these listed issues. Because the Texas Railroad Commission is the state's agency, it is seen as a tough foe against environmental issues and is viewed as being favorable to the gas industry. I caution against developing a mindset that the EPA is an enemy, yet for those who hesitate to work with them, Luke instructs, "Those who hear, love your enemies, and from one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back." The Commission invites partnerships with local government, an important starting place for us. Regarding calling upon their expertise, even though we understand what we can do with our city limits, we need to understand what ordinances may or may not hold. Furthermore, we need to fully understand extraterritorial issues and options, as our fracking concerns are not actually within our city boundaries. We do not know how they can help us unless we explore the options. My second recommendation is to work within Texas's framework. Romans 13, verses 1 through 3 says we are to respect authority. Furthermore, as we have seen, trying to fight the state by enacting local laws is not a solution. After House Bill 40 was passed, Denton recognized this. Golding and Galperin agree that trying to ban fracking works against cities in the long run. Instead, we need to honor state law and understand how to maximize what is within our authority. Additionally, I recommend that the Council follows Galperin's work that helps local governments handle fracking issues. We need to do all we can to protect our city and keep a close watch on other cities' success stories. Romans 3 verses 1 through 3 tells us to respect authority. However, the law has also given citizens room to make changes. As noted in the previous slide, I recommend taking a longer-term approach by complying with state law and working within our local authority. In the meantime, we can encourage residents to advocate for their position and teach them what this means. Furthermore, it is a key opportunity for the Council to promote the importance of voting. As Yale and Sizer note, fracking litigation still seems to be in its infancy, and, ultimately, time will tell. Let us remember that concerns for the environment are only one side of the matter. There are others who support it for economic growth and job opportunities. By promoting and educating citizens about civil discourse, advocacy, and voting, we are enabling all citizens to make their voices heard. This evening I reviewed municipal versus state law, cases, law, and understanding specifically related to conflicts over fracking, and gave 3 recommendations: that we work with others, that we work within the Texas framework, specifically remembering what we can do within city boundaries in areas that lie beyond our boundaries, and encourage and teach advocacy and voting. Let us move forward together as a strong community to protect the values and residents of Saletta, Texas. Please feel free to contact me with further questions or for more details. Slides with my references follow.